Greetings, Richard Fulmer here. Welcome to another edition of Richard's Rock Rambles. So, we're going to take one last look at some great music DVDs, concert DVDs, and I think I've saved the best for last. I'm going to be having a look at 3 DVDs from the late great Jimi Hendrix. For me, probably the greatest rock guitarist that ever lived. He took the guitar to a whole new place, innovative, exciting. Before him, there wasn't really the lead guitarist. There were a couple of guys like Clapton and Jeff Beck, but he just had a stage presence and he was the complete package. And I doubt if we'll ever see the likes of him again. Some have come close. Stevie Ray Vaughan springs to mind. Eddie Van Halen's another one. But overall, I think Jimmy still stands at the top of that pile. So what I've done is I've put them in sort of chronological order. So from the first big festival right up until the last. And if you think that he was only around for a couple of years, the iconic status that this guy got was just amazing. And it just shows you what a unique musician he really was. So the first one we're going to have a look at is the Jimi Hendrix experience live at the Monterey Pop Festival. And this was in 1967, June the 18th, 1967 to be exact. There were some great names at this concert, at this festival, I should say. Janis Joplin, The Who, our very own Hugh Masekela appeared there. I think Jefferson Airplane, the Mamas and the Papas. There were all sorts, all different styles of music. Jimmy had already been to the UK where he'd sort of been broken by Chaz Chandler. He was his manager. And yet he was still pretty much unknown in his home country, in America. So he came back for this festival, and after this festival, nobody forgot about Jimi Hendrix. He definitely drew a line in the sand with this concert. It was incendiary. It was something else. I mean, there were some great acts at this festival, but he just took it to another level. So let's just have a look at some of the tracks on here. There's an introduction by none other than the Rolling Stones' Brian Jones. He was sort of like the compere of the evening. They go into Killing Floor, Foxy Lady, which of course was one of his big early hits. Like a Rolling Stone, Rock Me Baby, Hey Joe, another big hit for him at the time. The Wind Cries Mary, a great version of Purple Haze on here. And finishing off with the cover track of the cover of the track Wild Thing, which was a Zombies track, I think. So who was in the band? Jimmy, obviously, on guitar and vocals. Mitch Mitchell on drums, great drummer. Had a very sort of jazzy style, a lot of fills, but pretty solid. Along with Noel Redding on bass, who I think also contributed some backing vocals as well. So let's just have a look on the inside here. There's a nice, that's the DVD there, picture of Jimmy. There's quite a nice booklet that goes with it. All sorts of info about the festival. Some great shots of Jimmy with his Fender Strat. So really some good stuff in here, and it tells you all about the concert, the different acts, the build-up, the producers, who directed the movie. Yeah, there's a great shot of Jimmy there. This is a special edition of this particular concert, of this festival, and on here you get there's something called American Landing, which is a new documentary that traces Jimi Hendrix's remarkable transformation from obscurity through his initial success in Europe and culminating with his triumphant US debut at the Monterey Festival. So that's all about how he builds up to this festival. Then there's something called Live at Monterey, a second look, which gives you previously unseen camera angles to view Jimmy's celebrated performance. So that's quite cool. So you can see the whole thing from different angles instead of just the one. There's some never before released live performances. Stone Free, Like a Rolling Stone, which I don't think won the original. And then there's a little thing about the Monterey Festival itself called Music, Love and Flowers. 1967. Right at the end of this concert, there's a great piece where he does Wild Thing, the cover, and he eventually sets his guitar on fire with I think it was lighter fluid, goes crazy with the amps, and there's a great shot of Mama Cass from Mamas and the Papas in the audience, and she just goes, wow. So he made his mark, and he made quite an impression, and this was really the springboard for Hendrix. He went on to much bigger things, but this was a great start. So that's definitely one to check out. Jimi Hendrix live at the Monterey Pop Festival. Then we move on to, which for me is the gem of all the Hendrix documentaries and DVDs, concerts. There's quite a bit of stuff out there. Some of it's a bit dodgy, not great picture quality or sound quality. But this, in 2005, they re-released Jimi Hendrix live at Woodstock. This is a must-have. Gotta have this. I was actually watching this last night and just blew me away again. This is a double disc. So here you get the complete Hendrix set. The original Woodstock movie only featured, I think, 3 or 4 tracks. Here you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is about 15 tracks. Excuse me, 15 tracks on here. There's also The Road to Woodstock, a new documentary about the promoters, Michael Lang, the band members. A second look, also with different camera angles. A lot of it that's in black and white, but it's still great to see from behind the stage. So you get a whole totally different perspective of what was going on. Then there's a Jimi Hendrix press conference where he talks about an upcoming concert that was going to be in Harlem. And he also reflects back on Woodstock. Then there's an interview with Billy Cox and Larry Lee, the guitarist, who were part of his band on the day. And they talk about how they had the friendship with Hendrix in the army and what have you. And then there's an interview with Eddie Kramer, the engineer Eddie Kramer, about the whole festival and how crazy it was. And I think he said at the end it took him about 5 to 6 hours just in a car just to get out of Woodstock because there were so many people. When Hendrix appeared at Woodstock, that was in the morning. He was supposed to appear at midnight, but because of delays and what have you, he only appeared the next morning. And by that stage, half the crowd had already left, but there was still a sizable amount of people there. And those who left missed probably one of the greatest performances that he ever did, featuring, of course, the famous Star Spangled Banner, the American National Anthem, which he did on the guitar, which is amazing. So who's in the band? Let's just have a look. There's a nice booklet that comes with it as well. Some great shots of Hendrix. The whole Woodstock story. So in the band, you had Jimi Hendrix, guitar vocals obviously. Billy Cox, bass on backing vocals. Mitch Mitchell on drums. Juma Sultan on percussion. Larry Lee, his friend, on rhythm guitar. And Jerry Velez on percussion. Now, I've got to say, after watching this again last night, for the life of me, I couldn't hear either Juma Sultan or Jerry Velez on percussion. It was so loud with the guitars, the bass and drums. So I'm sure they did. You could see them playing, but I couldn't hear anything. Anyway, that was one of the crazy things about Woodstock. I mean, there wasn't much in the way of mixing and sound checking and what have you. It was just very frantic. So the tracks on here are Message to Love, Spanish Castle Magic, a great version on here. Red House, that great blues track. Lover Man, Foxy Lady, Jam Back at the House, which is a long track where they just get into it. Just a lot of soloing from Jimmy. Isabella, great track. Fire, Voodoo Child, Slight Return, great version. Star Spangled Banner. Then at the end they do Purple Haze, Woodstock Improvisation, Villanova Junction, which is also an instrumental, I think a great little track that. And they finish it off with Hey Joe. Stunning concert. Such an iconic event. And to have Hendrix finish it all was just the cherry on the top. And such a shame that a year later he would pass away. So if you want to check out, for me, the standout performance at Woodstock, I mean, there were so many. There was Crosby, Stills and Nash, there was The Who, a bunch of others. But to me, this was still the best. And it's great that they released this complete DVD with all the bonus material to see one of the greatest guitarists ever in his prime. I don't think there are many DVDs available of Hendrix which can better this. Then lastly, we go on to the Isle of Wight Festival the next year, 1970, where he appeared, and this DVD is called Blue Wild Angel. So this was at the Isle of Wight Festival, which featured The Who as well, a whole bunch of others, Taste with Rory Gallagher, another great guitarist. There were so many, 10 years after, some really great bands at the Isle of Wight. I think the Doors were there as well. So this is a very different Hendrix. You can see during this concert he's got a lot of issues with the sound. He's not happy. It's still a great concert. Amazing guitaring, the whole 9 yards. But you can see that he wasn't happy with certain things on stage. I think at one stage his pants split as well, which wasn't great. On here, there's a lot of the the later tracks. He actually starts off with God Save the Queen, which is quite cool, seeing as he did Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock. Then he does the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which is a great version on here, even better than the Beatles. Spanish Castle Magic, All Along the Watchtower, the Dylan track. Machine Gun. That to me is one of the greatest tracks Hendrix ever did. With that guitar sounding like a machine gun, shooting down, the wailing of it, it uses feedback, the whammy, it's just incredible. Lover Man, Freedom, Red House Again, Dolly Dagger, another one of my favorite tracks, real funky track that. Foxy Lady, Message to Love, Easy Rider, Purple Haze, Voodoo Child, and In From the Storm. Great concert. There's also a nice booklet to go with this one. Let me just show you that you can see the inside. Thousands of people. Yeah, it's not that. There's a great shot of him with his Strat. And there's all the Marshall amps. I must say, all of these 3 DVDs, they've gone all out with the booklets and the info and everything, which is great. This is all done by the Hendrix family, obviously, because that's who handles all his stuff. So in the band was Billy Cox on bass, Mitch Mitchell on drums, and obviously Jimmy on guitar and vocals. Buddy Miles was also part of the Band of Gypsies lineup with Billy Cox. He was the drummer and vocalist of that. So yeah, there's another shot of old Mitch Mitchell on the drums there, distinctive style. So that for me was the last of the great concerts, the great festivals. And if you want to see Jimi Hendrix well filmed, great audio, well put together, I would check out these 3. Blue Wild Angel, the Woodstock one, and Monterey. Can't go wrong with any one of those. So that's it. The iconic Jimi Hendrix. Unfortunately, no longer with us. Only released 3 studio albums. I mean, there have been a bunch of releases afterwards, some better than others. And the other great live album, of course, is the Band of Gypsies, which I urge anybody to get if they're looking for really good Hendrix live, especially with Machine Gun. There's a great version of that on there. So next week, we're going to start having a look at some of the classic rock bands in depth. And then we'll take it from there. Please, guys, like and subscribe down below. Any comments are welcome and will be appreciated. So I hope you all have a great week and take it easy out there. And don't forget to play it loud. Cheers.